Notre Dame is making a lot of noise out there right now. But before we start this, Zach, I do want to say Pete is a Pop-Tart fan. I would like to confess I am also a Pop-Tart fan. He said that he does like Pop-Tarts. They were going to the Pop-Tart Bowl. They're not going to go now. Zach, are you a Pop-Tart fan as well?
I like them once in a great while. Um, my stomach doesn't necessarily like them as much as 10-year-old Zack used to, but my
Fair.
kids love them. My kids
Yeah.
love them.
Kids got iron stomachs. They're fine. Uh,
Yeah, until they don't.
Well, that's true. Favorite Pop Tart flavor? Did you have a favorite Pop Tart flavor growing up?
Oh, so my favorite to this day, and I think it's like low key underrated, frosted cherry.
That is a good one. Yeah, I was always a hot fudge sundae guy. Toast the
There
hot
you
fudge sundae. When you get like a toasted, it was good. It was good. Anyway, people aren't
go.
watching this video to figure out our Pop Tart cravings. They are watching this video to figure out is Notre Dame going to be leaving the ACC? And if they do, could they find themselves on over to the Big Ten? Well, Pete Bevacqua, I'm saying it right there. He went on the Dan Patrick show to talk about how Notre Dame did not make the college football playoffs, and he wanted to say that he is not upset with the teams in the ACC. He's not upset with the teams that made the college football playoffs over Notre Dame, but he does have an axe to grind with the college football playoff rankings, and he does have an axe to grind with the ACC. So we're going to focus more on the ACC here. We'll talk a little bit about the rankings too, but Pete said some pretty big things. One of the biggest things he said was we were mystified by the actions of the conference, talking about the ACC, to attack their biggest partner really in football. They have certainly done permanent damage to the relationship between the conference and Notre Dame. Zach, that does not sound good at all. What are your thoughts about Pete saying that the ACC has done permanent damage between him and or between them and Notre Dame?
So a lot of people are dunking on Notre Dame for this like wave of press releases essentially. They shouldn't,
Join a
because
conference. Join a conference. Am I doing it right? Join
yeah,
a conference.
well, and that's not untrue, right? And we'll talk about that. They should
Yeah.
join a conference. And the ACC screwed them. Now, I don't think they intentionally screwed them. I think their lack of foresight screwed them. Because what did we say last night or 2 nights ago, based on when this is being released? If the ACC puts Miami in the championship game and Miami wins, you know who's in the playoff today? Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, Miami.
So, yeah, it kind of is the ACC's fault.
Well,
Now,
I think.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
I think one of the biggest things he was getting at was yes, I think the conference championship game is important, but I think one of the biggest things he was getting at was it was clear in the ACC's social media posting, what they were showing on ACC Network, that they were vying for Miami to get into the playoffs, and the number one argument that Miami had was not over Alabama. Alabama had a better strength of schedule, right? Alabama had better wins than Miami. So their argument wasn't necessarily with Alabama. Their argument was with Notre Dame, saying we are 2 spots behind Notre Dame. We beat Pitt, common opponents. We beat them by more than what Notre Dame did, and we beat Notre Dame on the field together, right? And so there was the one day when I think they showed Miami Notre Dame like 5 times in a row, 10 times in a row, something like that. It was a Tuesday all leading up to the college football playoff rankings. So I think Pete has a lot to be upset about here with the ACC. I do think the ACC has kind of dragged Notre Dame, but at the same time, I also kind of understand where the ACC is coming from here to say we're going to back our actual conference partner and not just the partner, the person that has an agreement with us that they're going to play a few of our teams every single year, and also a partner that went out and screwed us just recently by creating a home and home with Clemson for years to come, trying to, make something more with one of the current members that, I'm sure the ACC was thinking they could have, come to us and played these games more. So I, I think it's a messy relationship between the two. I understand why Notre Dame is upset. And I think at the end of the day, because neither of them are really trying to work it out, I don't think that Notre Dame is going to be in the ACC in the near future. What about you?
Well, I mean, the fact is Clemson and Florida State want to get out of that relationship too. So the ACC is not well run. And listen, it makes total sense for the ACC to back Miami over Notre Dame. I don't think that's the problem. It's the way they did it, which I feel like it's the same thing with the college football playoff. I think they got it right, but the way they did it was just atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, again, I think two things can be true. The ACC should have backed Miami. And also, the way they did it was not helpful if you want to maintain a good relationship with someone who brings you a lot of revenue and a lot of eyeballs. And so I get why the ACC did it, just like I get why the college football playoff did what they did. They weren't wrong to do what they did. They were absolutely wrong in how.
I would say they were wrong in putting Alabama above Notre Dame.
Well, that's true too.
I don't
That
think
was
they were
stupid.
wrong to put Miami above Notre Dame. I think they were wrong by trying to find a way to protect Alabama after Alabama blew a 17-point lead against Auburn. They say, oh, they went for it on fourth down. Look how impressive this is. Like, and that whole, and Pete kind of brought that up a little bit in his, or maybe it was Dan Patrick, one of those two, and the thing brought that up. And I don't think it's just the ACC here. I do think that Jim Phillips is most likely seeing the ACC as an attachment of ESPN because you said it on the show when we talked about the rankings and if Duke and Miami would get in. I predicted neither would get in, and you said one of those two teams is getting in. The ESPN is going to find a way. ESPN is not blatantly biased for the ACC like they are for the SEC, as example of Alabama and moving them up over Notre Dame for blowing a 17-point lead and going for it on fourth down. But it's still one of the main partners of ESPN.
Yep.
The Big 12's main TV partner is no longer ESPN. The Big Ten's main TV partner has not been ESPN for a while now. Who is ESPN going to back, and who is ESPN going to give ACC Network to talk about for some time? Yes, they can talk about bowl games, but people want to tune in to hear about college football playoff teams and not, oh, how's this team going to do without their starting quarterback, starting running back, starting left tackle, and starting linebacker, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
I feel like go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I think there is a reality that Notre Dame does bring more eyeballs than any team in the ACC, regardless of the fact that they're an NBC. They're mostly NBC.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's not to say that you're wrong in that, but there is a reality that Notre Dame is one of the biggest brands. And if they're in the playoff, like I think ESPN wants Notre Dame in the playoff more years than not. But at the same time, and it's this conflict of interest that gets, I think, people like us frustrated by the bias, is they want their product to be more prominent than Fox's product, than NBC's product, and then CBS's product.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is in a sense, long-term gain over short-term pain to not have Notre Dame. And they're going to get eyeballs on this thing anyway, right?
I would go ahead, sorry.
Like Miami's going to bring eyeballs. Ohio State's going to bring eyeballs. Like Oregon's going to bring, like they're going to have a superior product regardless if Notre Dame's in it. They'll lose some eyeballs, but they won't lose a ton.
And I would say that ESPN was most likely banking on, well, even if Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs, they're still going to play in a bowl game. And guess who has the majority of bowl games that they can play during the day, during holiday break when everybody's at home? ESPN. So who's going to do better numbers in a bowl game? Miami, another disappointing season, missing the playoffs, or Notre Dame? Who's going to give us something to talk about on our ACC network? Notre Dame, who's with NBC, or Miami, right? Like, so that's kind of the way I look at it is like, I hear what you're saying, and I do think that there is a thought process of that. However, I do think that they were probably also thinking, hey, even if Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs, we can still get them in a bowl game. And guess where we can advertise? I think Cover Three was talking about this a little bit earlier. Guess where we can advertise all of our college football playoff stuff on Notre Dame. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Notre Dame decided, look, we're not going to play this game. You didn't put us
Yep.
in the playoffs, and we're not going to go play a bowl game. Do I like it? No. I want to see Notre Dame play a bowl game. Do I get it? Heck yeah, I do. Same thing with Indiana. Do I like that Indiana doesn't play a tough out of conference schedule? No. Do I understand why they do it? Heck yeah, I do. Because it makes
Yep.
sense and it's been proven it works out better for you to do it that way.
We need a commissioner. We need to
We
change.
we need something.
Yeah.
We need something so that ESPN isn't running things. And I think that
Yeah.
Notre Dame is seeing that right now. And I think the majority of college football fan base is seeing that after they saw the blatant bias for Alabama, who is the only team that has ever in the college football, well, I shouldn't say ever, like the past few years in the college football playoffs, I think it's since 2021, lost a conference championship game and not dropped a spot,
Hmm.
which is crazy.
Yeah. Media companies owning sports, not good.
Yeah.
Just it's not good. Like the NFL, like there's a reason why the NFL has a commissioner, why the NBA has a commissioner, why all
Well,
these
that's why
leagues.
it's why they have all their media rights consolidated, right? So that way
Yeah.
the commissioner and the league can sell the media rights together. But you can't do that in college football. Like I know everybody has this idea of like a 70, 80 team super league. Folks, we can't even get people to sign the Score Act stuff. Like Cody Campbell's out here trying to get the Score Act stuff not signed at all. I mean, it's not exactly the Score Act stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
binding agreement of the CSC together. And you got Cody Campbell out here telling the entire Big 12, no, don't sign it, right? We can't even get the Big 10 to get it in on an investment deal together. How are we going to get all of college football to agree on all of their media rights deals consolidated into one place? It's going to take some serious authority for that to happen.
Yeah. You know who could have done this, but they abdicated all their authority? The NCAA.
AA. Mm-hmm.
They stink.
They do. They do. Last question.
Why do
for
I
you.
not have my shirt? I need my shirt. Give me my shirt.
Last question for you, and then we'll get out of here. If Notre Dame does leave the ACC, do they go to the Big Ten right away? Do they go eventually? What are your thoughts on Notre Dame to the Big Ten?
So I think they will still be slow to join a conference because what happened that's gonna start taking place next year. They're guaranteed a spot if they're in the top 12. And we're still in an era right now where if you whine and complain enough, you get what you want. And for the most part, right? Like, and we see that most with the SEC. We see that with Greg Sankey. We want 7. He's really saying that so he gets 5. Like, I know that like he is really petitioning for 7 in the playoff, but like what he's trying to do is he's actually overselling so that it seems reasonable that they have 5 teams in. That's what he's doing. You just whine and complain enough, you get what you want. And guess what? Notre Dame, if they whine and complain enough, I know people won't like it, but they'll get what they want because they're Notre Dame. And even though they have to fight the media narrative at ESPN, they still bring too much money and too many eyeballs for them to ignore them completely. I mean, it's similar to Ohio State, if we're being honest. Like Ohio, like they can slander Ohio State all they want, but if Ohio State ever says you will never broadcast a game that we're in again, like we're going to boycott the playoff, forget that. I mean, they're too valuable a brand. And same thing with Notre Dame. So I don't think, like, I think Notre Dame still holds some cards, but I do think it will lend itself at some point to them seeing that joining a conference is more attractive. And
Well,
the
and
Big Ten's the best landing spot.
yeah, they're not going to go to the SEC because of ESPN. They're not going to go to the Big 12. There's not enough money to be made there. I think they're going to go to the Big Ten eventually. What I think will probably happen is I think that they will probably try to do it without the ACC for a year or two, whether that's this season or the next season. I think they'll probably try to do it at some point, and then once they are not able to schedule things out well enough, they'll
Yeah.
probably do it. They'll probably go to a conference, and I don't think the Big Ten's going to do a scheduling agreement. I don't think they're going to get anything like what they had with the ACC,
No.
where you move all your Olympic sports over to one conference and then you have a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. I primarily think it's going to happen because scheduling is just going to be so hard for Notre Dame. I do think that
Yep.
they have a bit of a lifeline with the SEC saying you need to have at least one out of conference game against a Power Five or Power Four or Notre Dame. So I think that will help. But I don't think you're going to get five different SEC teams playing you every year. You might get
Yeah.
two or three, but even if you're not playing USC, if the ACC is putting you out and doesn't want to play you very much, you don't have them. You have Clemson, a few SEC teams. The Big Ten doesn't want to play you, and they don't want to play the Big Ten, right? They have rivalries in the Big Ten with Michigan and USC. I think they'll probably end up playing USC. Maybe I shouldn't say I think they will because they will probably play it at the beginning of the season. But we'll have to see what happens there. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So we'll see. I think all of this will eventually lead to Notre Dame is not able to put together a good enough schedule. Number one, to be respected in college, not to be respected, but to have like a good strength of schedule in college football. And number
Mhm.
two, because it won't satisfy NBC for them to play a bunch of home games. And that's the other piece of it too. NBC only makes money on home games. So they can't go out there and schedule a bunch of home and homes. They just don't have enough money to do that. They got to play 7, 8, sometimes 9 home games a year in order to make up that much money. I don't think you're going to get a whole bunch of Big Ten teams that are going to bring you a whole bunch of eyeballs to say, yeah, sure, we'll come play you for, but only at home for you twice. Like that's not going to happen.
No.
And the teams it would happen with, I don't think it'll bring you enough eyeballs.
Hmm.
So, any other thoughts?
No, I think this was a seismic decision to leave them out. And while I hated it, how it went down, again, it was the right move by the committee. I want to keep emphasizing that. It was the right decision, terrible execution. But I think the ramifications of the terrible way they did it actually might be really good for the sport and for Notre Dame and the Big Ten moving forward.
You're saying right move to put Miami above them.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
think it was the right move to have Alabama in over them?
I don't know. I think if you're going based off resume, yes. I think if you're going off of who looked better, no. But I subscribe more to resume anyway. So I don't like Alabama. I would have Notre Dame's like the third best team according to Sager and FPI. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say it. I want Ohio State to play Alabama. I did not want them to play Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is a tournament based on resume and qualifications, like Bama had the better resume. As much as we think that some of their wins were overinflated, like every metric in terms of strength of schedule would favor Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the loss to Florida State probably needs to be established more. You
Yeah.
lost to two playoff teams and you lost to a 5-7 ACC team that's not going to a bowl game.
Yeah. It's
So
it's I'll put it this way, neither team like should be sad that they're out. Like if Bama was out, it's like, okay, don't lose 3 games. Don't lose to Florida State. For Notre
mhm,
Dame, it's like, don't lose your 2 marquee matchups.
right,
Like,
yeah,
so it's if that's what we're debating, like if we were debating Texas Tech over Oregon, that would be a lot more painful. But we're not. We're talking about two teams, one that's their resume is flawed, and the other one, their team is flawed.
hmm
Like, eh, okay, I'm not, I'm not, I'm losing tears for the Notre Dame fans. I'm not losing tears over the fact that Notre Dame is out.
Well said. Well said.